We are live. We are live. Welcome back, everyone, to GatherVerse XREvolve Summit Day 2. I am excited for this panel talking about the future of community in the immersive age of AI. My panelists, how are you doing today?
Exceptional. Thank you.
Yes, Russell. I'm so glad to have you join us. Lovely to have you here. This is going to be a great conversation. I'm really excited for it. Let's just start with some intros. Let's go around and kind of share who you are and what you're working on, and then we'll get into the questions we have for today.
Shall I start?
Or Russell, you want to start?
Sure. And then okay. So my name is Russell. I'm director of partnerships at GatherVerse, where I do all the partnerships at GatherVerse, pretty much. And I also have my own company called Mabob, which I am CEO of. And it's basically focused on helping women creators across the world, basically, and allowing them to use immersive technology to be able to, monetize their work and, be able to, go into metaverses and stuff like that. So basically, we have an entire platform and ecosystem which we do to help women creators across the world. So that is me. Over to you, Kristen.
Amazing. Next, Attila, would you like to go?
Sure. My name is Attila. Actually, I'm doing not only, of course, I get this XREvolve, but also I'm doing PhD in AI and Metaverse at University of Warsaw. I'm a PhD researcher as well, and also I'm a founder of Moderator. Basically, we are focusing on learning and learning experience and learning methodologies in immersive environments, and which actually leads us to virtual worlds that we are creating some virtual experience and training and growth hub actually in immersive spaces. So in Moderator, especially in Moderator, we are focusing on XR-based training, learning part, as well as these virtual worlds that we can just, let's say, improve, or maybe let's not say improve, but let's change the learning experiences of individuals.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Next up.
Who wants to go next?
Should I go next?
Sure.
Yes.
Sure. I'm Helen Lundström Irwin, and I was just trying to add my credentials underneath. I see you all did it, but it's okay. I'm an author. I'm a novelist, and I write historical novels. And one of my novels, Sour Milk in Sheep's Wool, is about a woman who has a cafe where she meets her women friends to fight for suffrage and women's rights at the turn of the 20th century. And this cafe is now on Engage, in the metaverse, on Engage. And I was very inspired by my character and her community and what she did with her women friends. So I'm really doing the same thing that she does in my book. And I have a community in a cafe in Lund. That's the place, the setting of the novel, Lund, Sweden. And the cafe is just the way I imagined how it looked in my novel, and it is set in 1918, which is very significant because in 1918 Sweden had its first nationally organized suffrage march. So there are some banners and other details inside the cafe that shows that history. So that's what I do, and it's changed my life. Really, it's been amazing, and the communities, I can safely say that it's thriving, and I have events there every week and every month and for holidays, and depending on the month, and we have discussions there, and it's fantastic.
So good. I'm excited to dive deeper in and learn more about that, Helen, as we continue. Daniel, thank you for joining us. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm great. Thank you for having me. So I'll give you guys my super quick background. I was in San Francisco working in kind of the classic technology industry, so software companies in San Francisco for a long time. And then I kind of got bit by the XR bug, as I think any of us that are here have. I'm a self-taught developer, and I started developing XR content, and it was like this light bulb moment. And the first time I was inside of a creation that I built myself, was this moment where I was like, this is amazing. I need to bring this to as many people as possible. So I started developing more and more content, and I felt that the tools were not adequate. Like, it was still quite hard. The learning curve is really hard. The tools are kind of inadequate. And so, like a little bit of a crazy person coming from San Francisco, I started a company to make tools to make it easier for kind of beginner to intermediate level developers to make their own custom games and apps. I really like all of the various platforms that are out there. Helen, you mentioned Engage, but there's also many others. VR Chat, Spatial.io had a moment there that maybe not so great anymore, but had a moment. Altspace was really popular for a while. I spent a lot of time in Altspace, and all these platforms are awesome, but they're not yours. So you're still building something inside somebody else's platform. And so that was my inspiration to build CyberHub is the company, and Foundry is the product we're working on as an SDK on Unity for people to kind of have everything that they have in those platforms, but it's something that they own and operate and control themselves. And I think my original inspiration, like many of us here, is science fiction as well.
So cool. Awesome. Thank you for that, Daniel. And getting into our first question, I'm going to start with you, Ellen. And the question is, how will AI redefine social connectivity in immersive environments? And as someone who owns spaces in immersive environments, how can you see AI redefining social connectivity from your perspective?
Well, I am really curious and have plans, hopefully in the future, where I can have my character Hannah inside my cafe, who can answer questions about the history and also what the cafe is about. And also some other characters in my book that are fighting for reproductive justice, who will be kind of outside, because it's controversial today too, but especially 100 years ago, it was even more controversial in a way. So if I could have characters outside walking around and kind of talking quietly about this movement and show history and how that really was, I think that would really, really help bring people together and understand how it was like in the past. And I also think it can help just with what I'm doing currently in the cafe. If there's somebody there that can answer questions and can explain that, yes, on Thursday, Helen has it's called fika. It means coffee hour in Swedish. She has fika, and it's a casual coffee hour. Come by, and that will bring more members in, more guests in. So definitely AI can be very beneficial to our community for sure. I haven't done that yet, but I know Engage just launched there. They have historical figures. I think Rosa Parks and Benjamin Franklin is there that you can go and ask questions. So it's really very interesting.
Yeah, I love that, and I can see the vision there for your space, having someone there at all times to welcome people, no matter where they're coming from in the world or what time they arrive. They have someone there to welcome them and give them information. That's super cool. And now, Russell, heading over to you, as someone who's just creating these immersive spaces for women, how do you see AI kind of revolutionizing the connectivity that's possible?
Yeah, I mean, God, this is a big question. To be honest, I think AI will redefine everything, and what I mean by that is, AI will be able to communicate with everybody, right? It doesn't matter who you are or where you are in the world or what you do, right? It'll be able to bring that sort of connectivity between each other a lot more closer because of the AI. And AI, you'll be able to communicate directly, right? As if they're like a human or just like another person you're speaking to, because they're going to be that so advanced and that socially sort of intelligent. It's like as if I'm talking to you, Christian, right? And that's kind of like what the social connectivity will do, is by bringing people together through AI and having those sort of conversations directly with AI and even just getting like information within a second, right? I go to AI and say, hey, can you give me like this information about the such and such artist who's performing on the platform, Boom, instantly, okay. And then that will also still bring the connectivity even closer, because if I can learn about that artist and the artist who's performing on stage and what they do, that allows me to socially connect with them even better. And then that means I can find information about them, who they are as a person, what they do, what their values are. And again, that will help with the social connectivity between sort of, various different people. So I believe AI is redefined a lot and is a big question. And I've tried to summarize it as best as I possibly can. So that's my thoughts on it anyway.
I love that. I think you did a great job. It seems like just the education piece of it is going to be very beneficial and encouraging people to be more social, right? If they have more information about the spaces that they're in and who they're interacting with, it just creates for better dialogue. And the second question, I'm going to bring you and Attila and Daniel in. Attila, as someone is doing research right now on metaverse and AI, what type of innovations in AI do you see that have the potential to transform community engagement in virtual spaces? We start with you and then go to Daniel.
Sure. It's a good question, because I would like to first define the change actually in our the whole community. Because if we are talking about the engagement, we are talking about the communication, and actually AI, immersive text, etc. All these things are related to the change in the means of the communication. And if we are changing the means of the communication of people, individuals, actually we are talking about a different type of the transformation, let's say even the digital transformation for the community, not only for people. But if we see that, especially in terms of innovation part, especially I will take it from the learning perspective. I will analyze the point from the learning perspective. If we are talking about the experience, even in the communication, in the immersive, in social events, in learning, we are talking about the experience. And as long as we change, or as long as we affect the experience in immersive worlds through AI, through some other tools, actually, then we are talking about the transformation of our communication and transformation of our engagement. So here we have some innovations, of course. What is that? Of course, the change, especially in learning, I can definitely say that in the future, we should expect virtual assistants, not even assistant, virtual trainers, because even right now, as a prototype or different, as a software, it is available. I mean, they are teachers, they are L&D directors, they are a learning and development consultants, and they are talking to you. And they are talking to you as a human. And they are giving you more maybe sophisticated, I don't know, perspectives or comments, recommendations, whatever you say, more than a human. I think this is very much remarkable in our terms, because we are focusing on here transforming the engagement. And this is, of course, one part, but also it's it has a role to engage the people who have common interests. And we are actually categorizing based on the behavioral analysis, based on the interest, based on the social activities, etc., etc. And especially in our virtual world, we are categorizing people based on their behaviors. And it's literally, it's like a pure behavioral data analysis of each avatars. And in that case, AI can actually get, let's say, a crucial role to engage people who have common interests, who can be maybe get along, or who can have some different project with different aspects. Just looking at that point from the different aspects or from different angles, AI can just get it done, and AI just can get these people being together. I think this is very much important point, especially in immersive, especially in virtual worlds, because we are actually kind of rely on the avatars' behaviors. I mean, not like the faces, especially in VR. We are not focusing on faces. Even if you focus on faces, you are focusing on avatars' faces. So in that case, we should definitely think about first behavioral part, and the second, how we transform the communication, especially in virtual environments, in terms of engagement. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Love that. Thank you for breaking that down so detailed and specific. That was really good. Moving over to you, Daniel, as a visionary and someone who's just at the forefront of these technologies. What innovations in AI are you seeing that can transform community engagement in virtual spaces?
Sure. So I want to take a slightly more technical response to this question and also bring it closer to today. So my team, we've been working with AI a lot in terms of prototypes, but generally speaking, it hasn't really quite been there yet. And one of the the fastest innovations we've seen in this most recent ChatGPT 4.0 is the speed at which you can communicate with the AI. And that is going to unlock so many different things. So a lot of what we've all been talking about here, a lot of what we're all envisioning in our minds for interacting with AIs in terms of in an immersive environment, it's not possible until the speed, the latency is brought down to near human levels. So in our earliest prototypes, it was so slow. You would speak to the avatar and you'd have to do voice to text to ChatGPT. ChatGPT took its sweet time getting its response back to you, and then response back to text, and then back to speech, and the avatar talks to you. And when that latency of talking to an avatar, an AI avatar, is that high, we're not there yet. But a lot of the innovations we're seeing now is that the AIs themselves are getting a little smaller, a little leaner, they're a little faster. The latency is coming down tremendously. And also, they're getting a lot more natural. I think all of us have had, if any of you guys have been playing with ChatGPT for a while, I've been almost a daily user for quite a long time now. You can see that like each model, the improvement is so tremendous in terms of the naturalness. And so what we're seeing in the speed and the pace, and everyone says, is AI going to be there in the next little bit? I'm like, have you seen the pace at which it's already gone in the last 6 months? Like, just imagine the next 6 years. And it's going to be near unimaginable. And so all the things that we're thinking about in science fiction, someone's going to fall in love with an AI. Yeah, it's going to happen. It's going to absolutely happen. Like, or it's going to be their personal teacher. That's going to happen. It's going to happen for sure. Or you're going to have employees or coworkers or friends that are AIs. It's going to happen, whether it's 6 years or whether it's 10 years, and it's going to happen. And I think the thing that I think that's most interesting about the interplay between AI and immersive spaces is that it gives the AI an embodiment. It gives the AI an actual spatial presence. And I've had so much fun doing really crazy stuff. I'm not, Helen, I'm not an actual full-blown writer, but I do write a lot of stuff. And I've used ChatGPT to create a little writer's room with all my favorite science fiction authors. And it's amazing to be bouncing ideas off of like my own AI version of Neil Stephenson or Brandon Sanderson as a fantasy author, and having them help you out as you're writing through something. It's amazing. But imagine that exact same experience in a room where you actually feel like you're in a room with them, and the avatar looks and feels like them. That, you get into all kinds of IP issues as well, of like what happens if we all have our own little versions of Neil Stephenson in our pocket. But putting that aside for a moment, the near-term innovations are happening, and it's happening super fast. And the one I'm most excited about is the latency coming down to near zero. That's when it opens up a lot more interesting stuff.
Can I just quickly jump in? I just want to finish on kind of what you were saying, Daniel. Like, I saw Adam Smith yesterday with his keynote, right? And he was saying by like how like 20, I think it's 2040 or 2050, I can't remember the exact date, one of those days, there's going to be over 1 billion people living outside of Earth, right? That's how fast technology is going, right? And he was saying about, was it like 8G or 7G or something will be like within the next 5 to 10 years. So the pace in which we're going at technology-wise is so like incredible, like Daniel's saying. And as soon as I heard that on that keynote saying about 1 billion people living out in space, I was like, oh my God, like, could you imagine 1 billion people living on Mars just because technology is so fast and so that, fast pace is... Anyway, Christian, over to you.
Is it okay if I comment on what Daniel said? As a writer, I hear you so much. And I also want to say that both my husband and I use ChatGPT for different reasons. And we have both said to each other, you should be very jealous because this conversation, you should be very jealous because we each have these, personal conversations about our work and our answers, because ChatGPT knows what we're talking about in a different way than I know what he does, and a different way than what he knows that I do. And it's fascinating. So yes, I agree. It's going to be an amazing world.
Yeah, 100%. I think Thomas is joining us. Welcome, Thomas. Let's get into our next question, because I'm curious, right? We talked about how we will potentially have these relationships with AI, and AI is becoming more natural in its language and in its communication. But I'm curious, how can AI enhance emotional and cultural connections in digital communities? And when I'm curious about this, not in the form of people having relationships with the emotional or cultural AI, but how can we utilize AI to make the actual human more emotionally aware or culturally aware? Who wants to give that a shot? Russell, go ahead.
I can't help myself. Sorry. Again, yesterday there was so many sort of interesting talks, and one of the key talks that came up was empathy, right? And that's apparently like the number one thing which kept coming up over and over again for for AI to have, right, on the emotional side of things. And the connection is that robot being empathetic towards you, right? Because if it doesn't have empathy, and let's say something happens, or because it doesn't have empathy, it won't sort of like stop itself, right, or feel sorry for you, or be able to support you, etc. And I think AI having empathy is a key sort of point in all of this, because it can feel whatever other emotions it wants, but if it doesn't have the empathetic side to it, then it won't have that sort of human connections, because humans are very empathetic towards each other, and being able to support each other and be able to sort of segment different sort of emotions from each other. So I think that's one key point, and that was one thing that was spoke about a lot yesterday, and I really sort of 100% agree on that. So yeah, that's my point on that.
So cool. Thank you for sharing that. Who also would like to speak to this question? Helen, let's go. It's all you.
Thanks. I think it can also explain contexts that we don't understand from another culture. And I think it can really explain what somebody means. If somebody says something and we don't know the cultural context, but the AI might know what the cultural context is and can explain she or he or they are thinking this because this is what happens, and this happened 30 years ago, and due to that there's a lot of feelings about this and that. And also translations is probably going to be better with actually translating things. I'm Swedish originally, so I know, and if whoever is bilingual or trilingual, however many languages you speak, that translating straight off never works, or right straight across, I don't know how you say that, never works, because the context is very different and it can create really big misunderstandings. So I think that could help with community and human connection as well.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And just in real time, as an American living in France right now, there's so much emotional disconnect just because of the language barrier. And so I can only imagine if I'm just able to better understand cultural translations when having conversations. I think it could just help have better relationships, honestly. So I like that point that you had, Helen. Attila, did you want to add something to this?
Yes, sure. I would love to actually, because again, like emotionally, yes, AI can detect even emotional responses of people and then behave accordingly. But when it comes to cultural connections, I have doubts actually, because the cultural connections, even based on our behaviors, I mean, based on how we raised, I don't know, like where we just raised, and what was who were our parents, or who were like our, I don't know, our sisters or brothers, whatever. But especially cultural connections, especially for AI, is really challenging, because how AI can understand my mindset coming from actually my childhood, and especially if AI would like to connect me to a person who is similar to me, it will take some time, because there's a cultural context, even when it comes to like even the offensive parts in the immersive environments, immersive worlds. How AI can understand one trope or one, I don't know, something really bad can be offensive towards me, but AI can understand it's a joke in a funny way. And this cultural connections, especially when it comes to cultural context, I think it will take still some time, because even AI is developed based on the biased data sets. So it's just like a kind of like a bit, in my opinion, a kind of like an obstacle to enhance the cultural connections in digital communities. But especially if you take it from the, of course, social point of view, AI will definitely enhance the cultural connections in digital communities in many aspects. But if you take it from the individual point of view, there is an obstacle still we need to face, we need to deal with.
100%. 100%. And Daniel, I want to bring you in for this next question. So when we're thinking about the challenges of these AI technologies, what should we be aware of when it comes to fostering inclusive digital communities?
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in here. So the first thing, Attila actually just referenced it in terms of building out the AI, and so we've all heard various horror stories of like the training data itself, and so if it's trained exclusively on white and Asian males in the Bay Area, then it has no context of what a rural Latina woman's life is like, and or what somebody in Africa or somebody in Beijing or what their life is like. And so that's one of the key challenges is making sure that we're using AIs that are more inclusive themselves, and then also not to over-index the other way. Like that can be problematic as well. We all saw some pretty funny stuff recently of Google's AI going ham the other way, and like that's hilarious too. If you're like trying to show the founding fathers of the United States of America as racially diverse, it didn't work. And so I'm a big fan of like revisionist science fiction history and doing all kinds of fun stuff like that, but there's a time and a place for that. And so I think some of the challenges is getting the mix correct of not only the training data, but how much are we trying to foster inclusivity while also maintaining an understanding of what did already happen, which historically Earth has not been the most inclusive place. And so it's a delicate balance that clearly all the major technology companies are not doing super well, though they are trying, and it's a challenge. And some of it is also a question for all of us as humans. Like where do you put the balance? Is it somewhere that you put it on what we want the world to be, or is it that you put it on what the world is? And ideally, it's slightly skewed towards what we want the world to be, while still understanding where we're currently at.
Yeah. That's so good. And we're seeing, like you said, we're seeing this in real time. Just the biggest corporations just struggling to get it right.
With sometimes hilarious results.
Yeah. Right. But it's a challenge nonetheless. And Helen, coming over to you, I'm curious, when you think about your digital communities, what are some possible challenges that AI could bring?
Well, it was very interesting what you said, Daniel, because in my physical writing community, and I belong to the Historical Novel Society, we just had a discussion similar to what you were saying about having sensitivity readers for our work. And yes, that's very important, but we should also make sure we don't write time travel novels. People 150 years ago were not like us. They did not have our more, if we can say this about ourselves, enlightened view of how humans should interact with each other. And our characters can't be that. Like you said, our founding fathers were all white. And so to bring this in, if I just talk about my own community in the Four Mothers Cafe, I want my Swedish woman who lived 100 years ago and had a cafe in Lund, Sweden. I want her to be aware of the historical context in Sweden at that time and be that character. And she would have a very Swedish perspective. She wouldn't have a very broad perspective because she didn't have all that information at that time. She would know some things about the world. Is not that long ago, but the further back in time you go, the more aware you have to be of how small the world is and what people were actually thinking at that time, and how to bring that into an AI that is interacting with humans living today who may or may not know history. And some of the things that people said in the past, very, very offensive today. So that's a very important and very interesting discussion to have. And I would love your thoughts too about how that can be done. so that we can, you phrase it very well, Daniel. So we have to know history, how it was, but live in today's society with the knowledge we have and being who we are today. So I would love to hear what the rest of you think of that. I think you're muted. Christian, you're muted.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I was asking Daniel, would you like to respond to that, or anyone else have?
I would like to add one more thing, actually, because actually we are discussing, even if we say challenges, we are discussing, I mean, what kind of negative things we can just face. But actually, I totally agree with Daniel as well, because there's a question. Are we discussing what ought to be or what ought not to be? I mean, this is like there's like a slight difference, actually. And in that case, challenges could also turn into, like, I don't know, maybe promises, and I don't know, some I don't know, let's say new developments at least. I mean, we can take it from the positive perspective, but I definitely do agree, and I would definitely add this part as a part of as a comment to what Daniel said.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, let's get into our next question. We were talking. I love this conversation. By the way, we're talking about the history and how that affects the present and also the future, right? And so I think that's relevant to this next question, which is how might AI influence the evolution of these communities, community behaviors, community norms, community rules within immersive platforms? What can we look forward to?
Right off the bat, we're all hoping for slightly better moderators and to reduce the amount of 8-year-olds screaming in VR chat random swear words at anybody who joins immediately. That would be fantastic. AI moderators. But so that's one thing though. Moderation is a serious problem that hopefully AI can do better at than humans. But like getting into slightly more realistic things, one of the things I think is going to be interesting is the interaction with the AIs themselves. And like, if you're in an immersive space, whether it's Helen's Cafe or a business application or a video game or something like that, like, how do you know if the AI has become near human, like, and can essentially pass the Turing test? How do you know who's an AI and who's real? And how do we interact with them? And how does that change? And what is appropriate? And so I think we'll definitely see. I don't even know the answer. I don't know if any of us could know the answer. This is still within the realms of speculative fiction, probably. But how will we end up treating the AIs? And I think from the world of fiction, my absolute favorite interaction with droids comes from Star Wars. In Star Wars universe, all of the robots are there and just a part of daily life. And in some cases, it's totally okay for the characters to be friends with the robots and even experience love towards the robots, though it's very clear that the robots don't necessarily have the same emotional attachment back to the humans. So I don't know. I'm all for Star Wars.
I would like to jump on this because I think it's very interesting. First of all, I definitely think that AI will be able to stop a lot of like bullying and hatred and all that kind of sort of stuff, right? Which we see on platforms today. I definitely think in the short term, the social media side of things, it will stop sort of bad behavior and sort of evolutionize the community norms within sort of social media platforms in the short term. But in the longer term, I definitely think like what Daniel was saying, which is like the interactivity and being able to sort of like control those sort of aspects on the AI side. I know it might sound like we're sort of being controlled some sort of aspect, but I think what the AI side and what people that are programming AI and what they're trying to do is trying to create a better world for all of us, right? Because at the end of the day, humanity is first, right? And obviously, the technology is just an advancement on top of humanity, right? Including AI. So I definitely think that if the if we go in the right direction with AI in creating a better world and making sure that it is being used for good and making sure that it's being used in the right way, then the community norms and behaviors in these immersive worlds will become a lot better because people will know that if they swear or if they bully someone, they're instantly banned or they're out, right? And I definitely think that will sort of adjust people's behaviors in those worlds and make it like a better world. But that's my personal opinion. So yeah.
Yes, love that. So there's hope. There's hope for better moderation for sure, making sure that there's less bullying and things like that. Thomas, welcome here. Can you hear us? Okay. We cannot hear you, sir.
I don't think you can hear me.
Welcome. Okay, having some trouble hearing you, Thomas.
I don't know.
I think he's there. It's just quiet. It was like super quiet.
We'll keep it going with the few minutes that we have left. This great conversation. I'm loving it so far. So continuing to talk about community. How can AI be leveraged to manage community growth and scalability within these expansive worlds? Because also speaking of moderation, when you have many people from all over the world in one space, it can be a lot to manage. Helen, you probably have some thoughts on this. What do you think? How can we leverage AI to better manage communities?
Well, in my own world, like the cafe is the actual hub, but there's also an outdoor area, which I'm in the future want to expand upon. I want to add some museums and home for unwed mothers and other things that happened in my novel. And I think having somebody in those museums or just having an AI that is in the background, if somebody takes a walk and walks around, to just stand there and say, look, there's more in here. You're welcome to go in and take a look. And also just have a look at the other areas around it, because you can walk far into the hills. There's green hills, and walk far into the nature, so to speak. And so just having other avatars there who can be aware if somebody's walking around there would be very helpful. I'm not sure if that answered your question or if you had something else that was more specific.
Interesting, because it brought up an idea. So are you visualizing people coming into a space and just having a personal AI as kind of like a guide of the world?
Not really. I was thinking more that there are other characters who are from my time period, who could answer questions about some of the issues that women dealt with during that time. And so I'm going to have to think about that answer, and possibly also like a guide. That's a really nice idea as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very cool. Russell, you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, I think the instantaneous, not just like, I know we were talking about like the moderating side before, but this comes to the other side of the coin, which is like the support side, right? You know, being able to instantly get AI support within a second, right? Not having to, wait for someone to help you, or, that sort of stuff. I think the scalability and expansiveness on that side of things in getting that instant support and guide or whatever it kind of may be that you need in that immersive world is going to be key into making this even more expansive and scalable. And I definitely think AI has obviously the scalability to be able to do that and be able to support people with ease and be able to respond in such a quick manner compared to even just normal general support, right? And I definitely think that as well, it will also be able to sort of help manage sort of expectations as well, and what will be in that world as well. I just think there's so many sort of benefits from a scalability point of view with AI and being able to help the community growth and being able to communicate it with it as if it's like another person, right? Or if it's another sort of staff member, or like you were saying earlier, guide, right? So I think that that sort of aspect is key to helping that sort of growth.
Yeah, 100%. Awesome. And we talked earlier about just a little bit about ethics, but I'm curious from like a research standpoint with you, Attila. What ethical frameworks do you think are necessary when it comes to just this integration between AI and immersive technologies?
I mean, this is a really good question because I'm especially focusing on this part, like the governance part, because even frameworks, we are definitely like totally, I mean, even in the research area, academia, we are totally obsessed about the regulation, frameworks, etc. But when it comes to especially like the ethical point of view and the even the governance and the regulations, in my opinion, 100 it's impossible, I mean 100% to control the AI and these regulations or the immersivers, etc. There's no 100% regulation and there will not be 100% regulation. We can just manage somehow, and even recently EU just released an act, AI act, but still, I mean, at some point, at what point actually you can control the AI, because it collects the data and it collects new data, new, I don't know, every day, every second it collects a new data sets and it just interprets the data as well. And it's like a generation of the data. I mean, we can also talk about. And in that case, for immersivers, we can definitely say that accountability should be taken into account, fairness should be taken into account, or I don't know, transparency should be taken into account. But when it comes to the general framework of AI for ethical framework, it's impossible to say something certain and it should be implemented or it will be implemented. There's no such thing because the data collection is various. I mean, data sets are various. And especially when it comes to virtual worlds, and I will take it from there, we are actually feeding ourselves actually from the data with the data. And if we have any kind of restriction, which we have already, it just actually limits your development. This is like 100% like the truth in, especially in the development phase. And even it's like a kind of like issue for like the great powers, politics, etc. But also it's like a limitation of the development in new emerging technologies. And if I cannot get the data, I cannot develop more, or I should be somehow, I will be limited actually to develop more in immersive worlds or connection, because say anything connected to AI and immersive worlds. So in that case, especially for this part, for the ethical framework, I can definitely say that we should be maybe open what kind of data we are collecting. I think users should know that, because even when you write on ChatGPT, for instance, a simple question, I mean, what should I wear today? This is also a data and you don't know where this question is going. I mean, this is kind of like a part of where you should know what you should know, and what you should know about your question, what you should know about your responses, what you should know a whole conversation actually that you are doing with AI. So in that case, no 100% regulation or framework, but then we can just set some at least principles to regulate or to make it more, how to say, reliable actually in front of the individuals. I can definitely say that.
Amazing. Thank you for that insight. Super good. And we have a couple of minutes left. I want to end with this last question. We can kind of go around the virtual table here. And I want to hear everyone's 2 cents on what future trends should we anticipate in the interaction between AI, immersive technology, and community building. Daniel, let's start with you, then Russell, then Attila, then we'll end with Helen.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is to expect people to have relationships with AIs, which is going to not always romantic or sexual in nature, but expect people to have relationships with AIs. But also, like everything that we've imagined in science fiction over the last 5 decades is about ready to become true in some way or form. And it may not be the holodeck like it is in the Star Trek, but it will be something similar to that. And so expect basically us to quickly blow past everything that we've already imagined and then have to start imagining new things that we haven't even imagined before. But I have a sneaking suspicion that in the next decade or so, we'll be able to build everything that we've already imagined up till now.
Wow, incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump in on this. Such a big question as well, but I'll try and keep it short. I think the personalized experience is going to be the biggest thing out of all this. Being able to not only sort of collaborate the community into one sort of immersive personal space, experience together, right? But being able to have individuals inside of that community to be able to have different experiences too. That's going to be even more crazy. I think the AI is going to, make things a lot more faster, a lot more efficient, a lot more speedy, a lot more sort of connections, as Daniel was saying. And definitely, I think from a community building point of view, it'll allow people to, basically, especially if you have your own community and you're a founder of a community like how Helen is, right? She'll be able to use AI to give the support, to give the instant reciprocation, for her community that they need, as well as having a personal guide or whatever else may be within Helen's business, right? So I definitely think those are how the sort of three things are going to sort of coexist. And I definitely think that just the rate that we're going at, even what I'm saying now, will be tomorrow, right? Because it's going that quick, launching out, rockets in outer space. I mean, I even saw an article saying about how you can sort of fly from London to New York within 40 minutes on like a space aircraft. I mean, that's crazy as well. But anyway, that's off topic. The point is the technology, the pace of what things are going at. Like, even what I'm talking now will be yesterday, and it's just going to go like so fast and so great, hopefully. And yeah, my fingers are crossed, that's for sure.
And actually, I can add here, I mean, I would like to, because we are talking about AI and immersive technology, but in between there's a human factor. And I will again maybe repeat the same thing, but I have to say that the communication and the human needs actually will kind of be determining actually the future trends or future developments and everything. Because if we just considered AI or immersive only, we will be definitely get lost. I mean, definitely, but we should understand the human behaviors, human needs, human factor, especially in AI and immersive. I will just conclude with an example, because right now we are also creating a virtual world, and we are also creating AI assistants or AI guides, whatever you say. But this all AI thing based on the anticipated needs or the needs that we got from the data in our virtual space, and everything goes actually specifically or focusing on specific need of a human or even individual or customer or corporate, whatever. I mean, especially in learning, we should be definitely rely on the human factor or human needs and their needs. I mean, employees needs, whatever you say. But here we should definitely focus on the human factor between AI and immersive technology. Then we can just come up with some even we can anticipate some trends based on our data retrieved from the, let's say, human behaviors and human needs or human interaction, whatever. But this is very much important point in my opinion for the future trends.
Sorry, just to jump in as well. Sorry, Helen. I just saw like a comment from Rose saying, "Is there anything that AI can't do?" And then Christopher says, "AI cannot smell the salt of the air of the sea. AI cannot process what we can feel what we can, and cry what we feel." So, how you saying about the human side? Absolutely agree with that.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Not yet. And that kind of goes with what I've been thinking about. I think we will have to rethink a lot. And we should be very aware that in 30 years, we will look back at ourselves and wonder what the hell we were doing. And so we should just be open to rethink and open to realize that we are not at the top of the world. Every single person who's ever lived has always lived in modern times, as we think we are and as we are doing. But we will rethink things, and we should just be aware that, be open to what we learn.
Yeah, amazing. Well, panel, thank you so much for your time. This has been an awesome conversation. So many gems shared, and I hope the audience enjoyed this as much as I did. I look forward to staying connected with you all. And audience, please connect with our panelists, continue these conversations. Helen, there was someone in the comments who said they're working on a historical XR project and they'll be reaching out to you.
Oh, fantastic.
So be expecting that. And yes, and everyone enjoy the rest of day 2. Chris, sending it back to you. Thank you all for your time again, and our gatherers as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.